Hello and welcome to Explosive Kolonisation. We are now in the second last episode, and if you at least were a regular viewer until my informed solstice, you should know that at the moment we're fairly well colonised throughout the system. As is usual with these last few episodes, my apologies for getting this one out. As people know, I was getting married and there was all that fun and jazz going on, and then my beautiful Acer Predator laptop decided to, I think the technical term is shit the bed. I sent it back to Acer because it wasn't working, it was crashing. They sent it back to me and said there's too much dust in your system. To which I responded in kind saying, dust doesn't cause a motherboard issue, can you please do your bloody jobs? A long story short, they had to pay me money because of the time it took them, but this is the reason for my enforced sabbatical. So now that we are back, we are now, I believe, in 1.4. And it's all shiny and upgraded, and I haven't opened Kerbal at all. This is all of the video stuff that I managed to harvest off of my laptop beforehand. Now I did grab all this stuff because I was calling it quits, so I was winding it up because the save file was so badly corrupted there was just nothing I could do with it anymore. I was just losing ships constantly on screen load, like this particular base you can see in front of you. It was either tweaking at such an odd angle to the ground or it was just exploding. So my Kerbal is, at the moment, I have a fresh install of it. It's completely clean. I don't have any of the save files from the previous thing because of aforementioned issues. So as you saw there, I was bringing guys down from the ISS, which is round the moon. And here we are, just moving some things at load range back on Lathe. Because we've got a lot to do, a lot of Kerbals to get back home before we wind this up. And all I'm doing there is I'm actually following the booster back down so that I can get back into the load range of the base there. When I was clearing things out, I went a tiny bit too high. But I get some of our Kerbals launched. There we go. It's not the most pleasant of sights, but I get some of our last Kerbals off of Lathe and we get them up into the air. And then up towards our station. So by now it's fairly standard fare launching off of Lathe. It's lighter gravity system, and I've got a few launch vehicles, or at least I had a few worked out. Once we get up to the station, I'm going to cannibalise this and attach it to one of the ships to add more supplies for getting one of the guys back. And a little spoiler, I kind of forget somebody who's in one of the other ships, so I have to do a bit of jerry rigging for that. But here at the moment, all we're doing is getting everybody into a couple of life pods, or just station transfer stuff that I've got here. And we just transfer the Kerbals that we have out to one of the two waiting ships. Now this is a ship that's been here for a while. It was built on the station, I do believe, and it's using one of the near future engines. This was built pretty much as a whole, I believe, as far as I remember. It's been so long. But yeah, this was built as a whole and it was going to be my exploration ship. But I wasn't a big fan of the engine, so I decided to bring something else. However, this does have the ability to dock a lot of stuff, which is what I need for what I'm about to do. So onward. We transfer these guys first, and then we jump back to the station. And jump. And we grab the other transfer craft, which happens to be a lander as well, which is always useful for when we get back to Kerbal. And we bring this out as well. So once we got everybody hooked up and docked, then we basically need to freeze them. So they all go into cryogenic storage. As you can see here, I'm just using MechJeb to do a whole load of docking and things like that. And then once we get docked, we start moving a few things around about that were already attached to this. I'm just trying to correct the balance so that when I thrust it doesn't kink around to one side or something like that. So with some of the probes rearranged, and this also has a little bit of life support in there as well, we can get on to reconfiguring this and freezing everybody. So I reconfigure it for some of the storage that I need, and then I put everybody, with the exception of I think one, into cryostasis. Then we jump back to the station, as you see, and we start undocking modules. Because this was built as a module system, I can undock some of the modules, string them together, and what I do originally is I throw them out towards a different station that I had. So we just dock these together, and then there's a little bit of a burn all on our CS thruster, so I cut it out and we docked it onto the front of this ship, which was going to be my transfer ship for inside the lathe system, or the dual system. But it has a lot of life support on board it, so this is what I'm going to use for hooking up and moving some of the life support onto my other ship. So a little bit of change in orbits, and this, as I remember, this took me most of a day to shoot this video. I think it took me 3 days in total between the 2 days of the video. That's how much I had sort of saved in. But we bring this section over, and then I'm just docking this on because it has a receiver for the mass driver, so that I can send things straight up from the base. So we just get it docked on the side there, and all I'm going to do is inflate those things, reconfigure them, and then use a mass driver to fire up anything that I don't need from the surface. Luckily the mass driver at this point in time does not need anybody there to run it. You can just run it off the back. It's easy enough to do. And then we bring out our Kerbal, and we do a little bit of recycling, mainly so that this equipment drops into the other ship and it gives me something that I can use. And then I'll leave the main part of the ship there because it's still got an autopilot system. It'll allow me to get it out of the way. And as I don't particularly care which way it goes, I bring the Kerbal back, go back to the autopilot system, and then just turn and burn and leave it on. So there we go, just throttling it up, getting a little boost to do a turn so that it sends it retrograde so I don't have any issues in the future. And then, as you see, just turn it on and leave it, and all it'll do is just rock it backwards. And then what happens is, once it goes out of the load range, it goes onto rails again, so as long as it has a suborbital, it'll drop straight into the atmosphere. No issues at all, which is always nice. And then we come down to the base, we grab the mass driver, and we start throwing things up. And we refill up that ship so that it's ready to go. Nice and simple. That seems to be a good idea. And here we go, we've got it all full. Now there are a couple of spare modules there that you can see. I don't need them, but I could do with the Delta V, so I just detach them and just let them float off, basically. So anything that I don't need, still keeping it balanced as best I can. Undocking what I can, throwing it out of the way. And giving it a good boot so that it gets out of loading range as quickly as well. And then we don't need this either. So out it goes. As you can see there, I did actually connect them all together. I forgot about that. But yeah, we get them all connected and then just throw them. Nice and simple. And then the little pulse drive that we have here. Now, I cut out most of this for time's sake because it was actually, I think, 7 or 8 orbits to get out of the dual system and get to Tylo, and then use Tylo for gravity assist, and oh god, it was a long, boring process. And it's an alright process, it's really good fun in this game, providing you got one thing going on. But the mistake that I've made is I've got so many things going on at the same time, I have to hop backwards and forward, and that does make it dull. So here we are with the second ship, and I just happened to look in the screen to see where all my Kerbals were, and I noticed this guy and then realised that I'd left him behind, and with the lack of thrust on the other one there was no way of bringing it back. However, at some point in the past I had launched up this engine for this. I have no recollection of when. But we get it all connected, and then set some time and wait for it. Now, back to what was happening at the beginning. As you can see, I was throwing two things together and they kind of got stuck around the moon, so I need to send a rescue ship. So this is just a basic drone ship. It's got nobody on board, it's just remote controlled entirely, and it is, or at least the first section is an SSTO, sort of. Essentially your SpaceX style launcher. I always forget the term for it. But we throw this up, and all I managed to do is I've gotten quite good at this, is just throwing the main projectile up and then spinning it round, slamming on the brakes and bringing it down on the other continent. So we just go for somewhere fairly flat, make sure we don't hit the water because you can't really survive in the water once it tips over. Deploy the air brakes, deploy the chutes before you lose control, because you will lose control when you get the plasma. There we go, we lost it there. And then it slows down on the brakes. You've already decelerated it a bit, so it works nice and well. Once you get your control back, you can deploy the gear. And the chutes slow everything down. And we're out of fuel, so there's nothing we can do, we're just bouncing off the ground. And it does tip, but the chutes and the air brakes sort it out. So, not a bad one. And then back up to the ship. So we give this boost out, manage to get it into orbit fairly quickly, and then throw it all the way out to to the moon, to pick up our stranded guys that are in a weird module with no fuel anymore. And just checking our orbits, getting our intersection right, and as usual, setting more and more alarms. Because you can't do this without Kerbal alarm clock. You will miss something. Even with Kerbal alarm clock, you miss a lot of things. But on the subject of alarms, we get a ping for this and we start our burn to bring us back. Now this thing does have a lot of thrust, but it doesn't have a lot of life support. However, with one guy on it, it can last for quite some time. So I give this punt back and it goes for a high thrust burn, and then another alarm as we enter orbit of the moon. We dock up with this section, and because of the thrust to weight ratio of this particular lander, I can actually use it, because it was designed for Duna, I can use it to bring this entire section back. So I transfer everybody in at first. I'm thinking about bringing the entire section back, and then I basically just give up on the idea and go for a hard burn back home. So return from the moon, save me doing any worker calculations. I was getting quite tired at this point because loading, I think it was taking 5.5 minutes just loading between different scenes. So that's why MechJib gets used for a lot of stuff. But I do it myself for the re-entry, and we try and get as close as possible to the KSC. As you can see there, get this trajectory right on, and it never bleeding works. It starts shifting as soon as I enter the atmosphere. I really can't make that trajectories mod work right for me. But it's close enough, it's the other side of the hills. So I try and throw us forward a bit with the thruster, but it's just not working. So don't mess with anything, drop out the chutes, drop out your gear, time warp down, and then always remember to kill your time warp just before you hit the ground. And there we go, all of our moon crew is back on Kerbal. So we are back out to Tylo this time with our first of our 2 ships coming back, and we're doing a very low burn to try and maximise the O-berth effect, boot it round this orbital body, but unfortunately at a ridiculously low thrust, as you can see, but I start cranking it as we go. The problem that I have with this engine is because of where you have to turn it on, you have to activate it and have the throttle on. But if you kill the throttle, it turns off and you have to recharge it. It takes a bit of getting used to, and it's not as fine use as you would hope. So unfortunately with this I've had to do a lot of tweaking and messing. Now having said that, these mods are now months and months out of date. I imagine them to be completely different. Or at least the mod for those engines. The rest of this, the DSEV mod, I believe hasn't actually changed at all since this. Unless Angel was lying to me and he did some extra changes, but aside from bug fixes, I think everything else is there. But as you see there, I load into a scene and I see things disappearing, and it turns out my engine exploded. But I didn't even see it. That's why it didn't crack on. It was just once in a time, and I actually reloaded and tried it again, and then that was the second one that you saw. So this is the problem with the save file. So I've got a problem there, which is kind of the reason this took a little bit longer, and there's going to be a second episode to the ending, which will be the 30th episode. So as you can hear in the background of probably. For some weird reason, my Bandicam managed to mess up and I recorded somebody streaming outside, I think. But we're using our little guys that we're going out to build a base at Eve. Oh god, my memory shot. But yes, so we're taking the little guys, and instead of building a base out there, I'm just going for one of the older spacecraft, and I'm going to use that to bring them back. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to bring this back. It has enough Delta V technically, I just don't have the patience. And I also can't refreeze. I forgot what you call them. Unfreeze? Yep. I unfreeze one of the Kerbals and I don't have the ability to put him back in deep freeze, which means he'll die on a return voyage. So I decide to go for this old craft that is in orbit. Unfortunately, as you can see from the wiggle, I can't get it docked. So a little bit of manual handling later and a fixing of a dock point onto a weird place. We finally managed to move this thing and get it docked. And that is where I'm going to leave you. So we have two spacecraft coming back from Lathe, one of which doesn't have an engine, and we have this spacecraft which hasn't run in quite some time, and I don't really remember how to use. Also doesn't have much fuel, but we have this and we're going to try and somehow get our Kerbals back. So thanks for watching, people that are just subscribing, because I'm still getting subscriptions. That's brilliant, thank you very much. It's really nice to see that people like this. Feel free to leave comments if you want to see anything else, you've got any ideas for other things I could be doing. Feel free to leave comments. I play a fair amount of Kerbal, a fair amount of Eve, and just random other games. I don't really film them, but if you want to see something, drop us a note. And I shall see you in the next episode. Bye!